So it was estimated in 2016 that the UK economy alone lost over £10 billion to online fraud in the previous year, with a fraud incident happening about once every 15 seconds. And the cost to the global economy of online fraud has been estimated as something like $100 billion back in 2010, and it's probably now many times that value. It's also been estimated that an average large company of around 10,000 employees might incur costs of something like $3 or $4 million per year associated just with phishing and malware attacks. So phishing and 419s are two sort of familiar ways in which fraud can be carried out. Phishing is where a fraudster purporting to represent an official brand will contact a third party with a view to try and obtain confidential information such as login details or maybe other personal details to be used in identity theft. And the Anti-Phishing Working Group is now consistently reporting in excess of 1 million distinct phishing attacks every year. 419 attacks or advanced fee frauds, 419 is named after an article of Nigerian criminal code, and that's where a fraudster convinces a victim to send them a fee, usually as part of a scheme in which some sort of benefit like an inheritance or a lottery win is promised. Phishing and 419s have a number of similarities. Both are frequently conducted via the sending of a spam email, and both often make use of an associated website which is purporting to represent that of the trusted brand whose name is being abused. In terms of detection of this type of fraud, the most effective method is via the use of a spam trap, which allows us to identify the fraudulent emails featuring the name of the brand in question. But it's also possible to detect the associated websites via things like domain name analysis or search engine meta-searching. In terms of enforcement, one of the most effective ways can be deactivating the associated websites, either via a registrar notice or a host notice. If the site itself is on a third-party site which has been hacked, it's then sometimes possible to contact that site owner to tell them to remove that added content. For 419 type scams, it's often useful also to deactivate any associated email addresses or telephone numbers that the fraudster might be using. Following on a sort of latter stage of the fraud, the stolen credentials are often traded online, often in private or hidden forums on the regular or the dark web, and that can be very difficult to monitor and enforce. But there is some value in looking for the appearance of things like stolen credit card details, because if we find that particular numbers have been compromised, those cards can be deactivated. From the point of view of individual internet users as well, it's also just worth being aware of the sorts of things that you can do to avoid being attacked by fraud. So being aware of things like unsolicited emails which seem too good to be true, and making sure that you check links in emails and directly browse to trusted sites, looking for things like HTTPS links and so on. So malware is a malicious software that runs on a user's computer without their knowledge, and it's usually picked up by opening an infected attachment in a spam email or maybe visiting an infected site, although that often involves clicking a link or running some sort of program. In terms of online fraud, there are a couple of relevant types of malware. There are keyloggers, which actually monitor keystrokes on a user's computer to try and collect usernames and passwords and then transmit that information back to the fraudster. And then there are other types of malware, so things like DNS poisoning malware, which actually affect the configuration of a user's computer or another machine to which they connect when they're accessing the internet. And that can actually cause them to be redirected to a fraudulent site, even if they enter the correct web address in their browser. There are a number of possible actions that brand owners can take to reduce the risk. One is monitoring for the appearance of their brand name in conjunction with malicious content in spam emails or other web content, and then enforcing against that content. They can use things like virtual keyboards on their login pages, so that's where passwords are entered via a series of mouse clicks rather than on a keyboard, and that can help get around keyloggers. And a number of brand owners will also do things like offer free antivirus or malware protection products for their customers and provide insurance against any financial losses. It's also important for brand owners to educate their own employees to follow the same sorts of precautions as general internet users should use to avoid experiencing losses due to exposure to malware. So that could be things like avoiding opening attachments and unsolicited emails, not clicking links on any unknown sites, and making sure that everyone is using trusted security software and so on.